Today on our 2014 Chevy Equinox, we'll be installing the Blue Ox base plate kit with removable arms, part number BX1689. To begin our install, we'll first go ahead and open up the hood. Next, we'll need to remove multiple screw and push pin fasteners so that we can remove the front fascia. We'll remove the 4 Torx bit fasteners across the front fascia first. Next, we're going to remove a push pin fastener on each side. We'll do one on each side. To remove the push pin fastener, we're just going to take a flat bladed screwdriver, get underneath the center of the fastener and pry it up. To release it, then we can remove it completely. Next, we're going to move to the wheel well, and along the outer edge of the wheel well, we'll need to remove multiple fasteners. To make it easier to gain access to these fasteners, we're going to go ahead and turn the wheel in on the driver's side, which will create some additional working room. We'll go ahead and remove the 2 Torx bit fasteners, then the push pin fasteners. There's a 5th fastener that attaches the fascia to the fender here at the upper edge. Now with all the wheel well fasteners removed here on the driver's side, move over to the passenger side and repeat the same process. Next, we'll move underneath the vehicle. On each side, we'll need to remove 2 fasteners to secure the lower wheel well to the fascia. Now with our fasteners removed, we're going to go ahead and disconnect the fog lights. To disconnect the fog lights, we'll remove the electrical connector from the socket. Gently pull back on the locking tab on each side to release the connector. Now with our fasteners removed and our fog lights attached, we're ready to remove the front fascia. To remove the front fascia, we'll start at the wheel well corner, pulling out to release the fasteners underneath. Once we have it popped free, we can go ahead and pull the front fascia off and set it aside for installation later. On the passenger side frame rail, we'll need to remove the air baffle. To remove the air baffle, there's 2 nuts that will need to be removed. Once we have the fasteners off, we can then pull out, removing the baffle from the studs, and then releasing the air cone from the air box. Next, we'll move over to the driver's side. There's a reinforcement brace just behind the bumper in front of the washer tank that will need to be removed and will not be reinstalled, as the base plate will take its place. To remove it, there are 2 bolts on the inside that we'll take out first. Then we'll remove the 2 bolts on the outside. With all 4 bolts out, we can go ahead and remove the brace and set it aside as it will not be reinstalled. Next, we need to trim the metal here from the seam over to the frame. It'll go along the seam and then down. We'll be removing this using a reciprocating saw. Now we're going to repeat the same process on the driver's side, although there'll be slightly more metal to remove to compensate for where the bracket was bolted up. Now that we have it marked out, we'll go ahead and cut it out. Note on the driver's side, it may be easier to use a cutoff wheel to get around the corner. Now in both lower bumper corners, we'll need to flex the steel out to allow for the base plate to get into position. I'm just using a pair of channel locks. Now with the bumper cut out, we're going to relocate the ambient temperature sensor. We'll just pop it out of place and move it up behind the bumper so that it's out of the way. Now we're ready to put the base plate in position. Once we hold it up in place, we're going to use some large clamps to secure it. It's a good idea to get next to the hands to help you hold the base plate while you clamp it down. Once we get the base plate up into position, we'll be about 1 1/8 inch from the top of the frame to the top of the base plate. As we put our base plate in position, we're going to use a couple of jacks to help hold it up and get it in place until we can get some clamps on it to secure it. Now with our hitch held and clamped into position, we're going to drill out the lower attachment point. To drill out our attachment points, we'll take our 13 30-seconds bit, which is the final size, run it into the hole to create a center point. Then we'll run a pilot bit through the hole first. We'll use a step bit process, then we'll move up to our final size. Now with the hole drilled out, we're ready to install the hardware. Each one of our new fasteners is going to get red Loctite on the threads. We'll then install the bolt and secure it with a split lock washer and nut. Then once we have it installed finger tight, we'll go ahead and run it down. Now with it tightened down, we'll move over to the other side and repeat the same process. With both lower fasteners now installed, we can go ahead and drill out the other 3 attachment points and repeat the same process. Now with the other 3 attachment points drilled out, we'll take our bolt and lock washer, we'll go through the base plate into the frame channel. To secure it, we'll use the handle nut provided with the install kit and go up through the access hole in the bottom of the frame. Note, we can go ahead and bend the handle as necessary to line it up with the bolt. Then once we get it lined up and started, we'll go ahead and run it down finger tight until we have them all in place. Now on the driver's side for this model, because it had the extra support bracket, we're going to install the rear fastener first, then remove the clamp and jack so that we can trim some additional room off the bumper to make it easier to drill out the center and top attachment points. Now to make room for our attachment points, we're going to cut out a piece of the metal for the old bumper brace. We'll use our cutoff wheel and Sawzall. Now we've cut the metal all the way, we'll go ahead and finish drilling it out. Now with all the hardware tightened down, we'll go ahead and torque the specifications as indicated in instructions. Now with the hardware torqued down to specifications, we'll go ahead and cut off the excess from the handle nuts. If you have any remaining handle nuts sticking out, I recommend to push them back up into the hole as they'll be very sharp. Next, we'll go ahead and install the safety cable. Safety cable is designed to go around the frame and back to the base plate. For this application, we've got plenty of length on our cable, so we're going to go around the frame twice, then back to the designed attachment point and use the quick link to secure it to the base plate. We'll put the cables over the quick link and then quick link through the base plate. Then we can go ahead and secure it. Now we have it tightened down, we can move over to the driver's side and repeat the same process. Next, we'll reinstall the air baffle. However, to compensate for the thickness of the side of the base plate, we'll take 3 washers and stack them on the air box studs. Now we can go ahead and put the air baffle back in place. Now we're ready to reinstall the front fascia. We'll need to do some trimming. Starting with the foam insert on the back side of the fascia, we're going to go ahead and take off the lower corner on each side. Carefully remove it. You can use a utility knife or we're going to use a Dremel. Now we'll go ahead and fit the fascia back on the vehicle and see if any additional trimming will be necessary. We'll go ahead and trim out a 1.5 by 1.5 inch section corner triangle of the fascia. Still making contact with our fascia in this area. To eliminate that section, we'll need to cut it across and up to clear the base plate. To try and get a clean cut on our chrome trim, we're going to use a small cutoff wheel on our rotary tool. Once we have the chrome section out of the way, we can switch back over to our plastic bit to take out the rest of the plastic or use a utility knife. With our cutouts made, we'll go ahead and retry the front fascia. Now, right next to where we made our cutout in the opening of our fascia, we'll need to trim the seam. We'll do this on both sides. Now that we've completed trimming out the fascia, we'll move back to the front of our vehicle. We'll go ahead and secure the ambient temperature sensor that we had to relocate. We'll just secure the sensor to the wiring here behind the bumper. To secure it, we'll simply use a zip tie and attach it to the manufacturer's wiring. Now with the sensor secured, we're ready to install the fascia. To connect the fog lights. On note, for vehicles where you'll be adding a supplemental braking system, it's a good idea to go ahead and install the brake switch now. Now once we have the fascia installed, we can go ahead and reinstall all the fasteners. Now with the front fascia reinstalled, we can go ahead and go over operation of our removable arms. We'll put the arm in, depress the spring, and rotate until it locks in place. Notice the pin locks it in. Then to remove the arm, simply pull back on the pin, rotate, and release. Now with the removable arms installed, we're ready to mount the vehicle onto the tow bar and hit the road. That does it for the install of our Blue Ox base plate kit with removable arms, part number BX1689 on our 2014 Chevy Equinox.